Immediately you are taken there, the first thing they did was to strip you naked. And you are given prison uniform. The prison uniform was very dirty. Bed bugs, rice. The purpose was to break you down, torture you psychologically so that you could confess. Alikuwa mbaya.
Mwanamke.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Munene Kamau remembers this harrowing experience like it was only yesterday. At 53 years of age, he admits it is a chapter in his life that remains embedded in his memory. And granted, he relieves every bit of it, notwithstanding that it took place over 20 years ago.
I learned later I was a chief torturer. He asked me whether I can remember watching the Rise and Fall of Idi Amin, that movie. Told him yes. Then he laughed. He said, "Oh, you have. If I get to zero and you have not confessed, the fate that befell on Archbishop room is going to befall on you." So he had a pistol, he grabbed me, then akaniweka pistol sasa kwa mdomo. Kasema I'm counting 1 to 10. So from 10 to 0, nikamwambia hata nikuchelewa umechelewa. Because I had already suffered so much, they had broken my leg. So I had nothing to worry about even if it meant death. Sasa nilipomwambia umechelewa, akaangusha hiyo pastora kwa hasira, akanishika, akanipunch. Hii meno ikaanguka.
A recollection of what remains a daunting experience for Munene, a long-serving journalist who worked with the only broadcasting house of the day in the 80s, Voice of Kenya. Hailing from Kerugoya in Kirinyaga district, he was a man keen on scaling the heights of his chosen profession, until, without warning, his life was turned around completely one Wednesday evening in 1987. We set out to retrace the steps of his life 2 decades ago, when agents of the state drove to his Kerugoya home, never mind that his neighbors were watching, or the fact that he had just returned from a doctor's visit and his state of health was not at its best. They came for him, and as he lay in his compound just before dusk, 6 armed men, heavily built, had surrounded him, the tips of their guns all pointing towards him, ready to pounce. He was, as he exclaims, at a loss for words.
So they came here, and the Land Rover was left about 500 meters from the main road to my home now. They blocked the road because it was claimed that I was a very dangerous person. I had guns.
Munene was accused of being a member of Mwakenya, an underground movement that was said to have been planning to overthrow the Moi government. He allegedly held the Secretary General's position in the organization, an organization he asserts he knew nothing about.
And I was very shocked to be associated with tourism. More so, they claimed that Koigi Wamwere, whom I never met, was my secretary. He was the president of Mwakenya and I was his Secretary General. How can you be a Secretary General of a president you have never met?
The lack of evidence, he thought, would clear him. But as he was to soon find out, it was only the beginning of an experience that was to change his life forever.
So from here, I was blindfolded, handcuffed, miguu na mikono, alafu nikatupwa kwa Land Rover huko nyuma. I was driven to Nairobi, to Nyayo Hse. And I knew I was in Nyayo Hse because I had worked in that building. And I used to park my car at the basement. It was meant now to break you down, so that as I torture you, you could easily make a confession that you are Mwakenya. Because all I wanted was a confession. But I never made the confession because I was not. If I were, they would never have gotten me. I would have friended the country.
For 2 months, Munene would remain in solitary confinement in the basement dungeon at Nyayo House and undergo brutal torture on the 26th floor of the same building. As he explains, 6 men and 1 woman would form the panel that would question him, demand a confession that he was guilty of sedition and treason. And when he did not give in, he was beaten like a dog, to the extent his reproductive organs suffered irreversible damage.
The experience in our house, if you imagine how hell looks like, if I were to choose between hell and Nyayo house, I'd rather go to hell.
But he was not alone, for unknown to him at the time, in his solitary confinement, there were others suffering a similar fate at the hands of the government's well-known special branch. For Newsnight, I'm Jackie Maribe.